Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and it was a pretty entertaining day yesterday on the timeline, mainly coming out from Arcitys. He had a few interesting opinions on the matter of control we'll get into in the coming minutes, but also on one of the videos that the CDL put out, claiming that FaZe are in denial of, well, something or other that we'll look at in the coming minutes here. Is that the truth for FaZe? Should the CDL kind of roll back the level of titles that they do? Maybe I'm biased to comment on this issue. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this from Lyman, I thought this was awesome. Stage 2 Grand Finals cards from Bance. These are only his stats in the Grand Final versus FaZe compared to the rest of the league's full Stage 2 stats. Shows how well he was playing in that series versus pretty much the best team in the game in Atlanta FaZe. This is it in all its glory, as you can see right here. The overall 95, 5 in 3 map counts. He has a 1.25 in hardpoint, 1.67 in surge, including that 10 in 0 performance, of course, on Express, 1.56 in control. So Bance dominating the Grand Finals. Great to see this guy back on top of his form. And well, we looked at the groups earlier today for the Ultra. They're in a pretty fantastic group, to be honest, and if these guys can keep up their performance, well, it's going to be such a great CDL in addition to what we already had. Like at the start of the season, we were thinking, okay, FaZe, OpTic, Empire, those are probably the big three. It's going to be tough for a lot of teams to match the level of talent on those teams, and here we are in just Stage 2 with a team that, well, none of us really expected to ever be winning a championship this year, even though we did talk about the potential of this team making Grand Finals at times. I think I did talk about early season the fact that Toronto definitely have the ability to make a Grand Finals. I didn't really think they'd be able to win it, but well, they do so in spades in Stage 2, and honestly, Stage 3 is going to be absolutely spectacular. But one of the things that may not be quite so spectacular is the control changes. We talked about not too long ago, for quite a long time, the fact that we wanted these control changes in, or at least a lot of the pros were pretty excited for it, but you know, always there's unintended consequences, and often things work out not exactly as they plan them to. So as Grone says right here, I mean, not too long ago, control changes are coming. It was revealed on the flank back when Zuma only had like 5,000 subscribers. It's kind of crazy. Now he's sitting at, well, 11,000, I think, plus right now, which is, well, incredible to see. But yeah, 20 seconds to be added to the timer per tick captured, and defense being based off total ticks captured, not based off of kills. Now, I think this second thing is just, well, there's no way this is a bad thing, to be honest, that having ticks captured makes a lot of sense, that should actually be the goal. But the problem is, a lot of the pros are saying that having the 20 ticks added per, well, tick, instead of having 60 seconds just added when you actually capture a point, it means that often the offense has way too much time. You could say that, okay, let's say we cap 2 ticks a day, cap 2 ticks at B, instead of having to rush to get the final tick at one of the points, which honestly at times I think made the defense too easy, but I think a lot of teams kind of figured out how to play it pretty effectively. I mean, this 3-piece from NetShoot back in the day was actually disgusting up against OpTic. This was actually that crazy week from OpTic where they ended up getting 3-0'd right here. But there was a lot of talk that adding this 20 seconds per tick would make it easier for the offense, and would make it, well, more balanced on some of these maps, especially Checkmate and Garrison, where it's probably too easy for the defense to hold. But now, a lot of the pros are talking about the idea that, okay, maybe this actually goes way too far. This was added not too long ago, I believe it's in League Play at the present time, as applies to CDL control in League Play. I believe it's like a setting that can be toggled, so I think the pros have been trialing with it on. Now, whether they actually play with it during Stage 2, like whether the rule set is just set for Stage 3, and it is going to be on for that, or whether they can decide with the league, okay, we want to turn this setting off, because the pros don't seem particularly happy with it. We looked at this from Brian say yesterday, the idea that, okay, it's basically TDM when offense has little, well, they've got no pressure to actually get the point, because, well, they have so much time on the clock, effectively, after getting some ticks on the board. And as Octane says, Pierce was in a 1v2 with 1 minute 30 on the timer the other day, and this is what Arcitys has to say. Yesterday, I missed the old control, saying that, like, look, the new one is actually just way better, and we should actually go back to it for Stage 3. Nice try, dude. Give me 3 minutes. I will see you in their spawn. Saying, okay, we just get a couple of ticks on either point, and then we can just spend on like 2 minutes that we have on the board, just, you know, go all the way around their spawn, get in their base, you know, just shoot them in the back, and we don't have to worry about getting the final tick until way later. We can effectively just play TDM for 3 minutes because we have no actual pressure to get one of the points to actually get that extra minute on the board. So I'm not really sure what's going on here, as opposed to, well, whether the CDL has decided, all right, we are going to be using these rules for Stage 3. That's just how it is, because usually by this time they've kind of announced, I mean, we're about a week away from it now, actually less than a week away, like 5 days or so away from Stage 3 beginning on April the 22nd. So usually by this time, I think like last time they'd announced what the map set was going to be and this type of stuff by around this time. So, you know, maybe they'll announce what the new rule set's going to be. I'm sure the pros maybe are feeding back pretty negative stuff. Then again, sometimes you see negative stuff on the timeline, but behind the scenes, most players are pretty happy with it, and therefore they're not tweeting about it, right? So you kind of get a little bit of a bias in what you see on the public-facing timeline. But, you know, a couple of people coming out now and saying this new control settings aren't exactly the way to go. Maybe they will get reversed to the old stuff for the CDL going forwards, which honestly wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because, well, watching Checkmate and Garrison towards the end of that stage was actually pretty entertaining once teams had figured out how to win offenses on a regular basis. Let's talk about this then. So whilst Arcitys, after being not necessarily too happy with the new control decisions that have come in, also not necessarily too happy with the contesting the point episodes that comes out from the CDL. CDL say the following: FaZe in denial as OpTic improving despite losing contesting the points, question mark, exclamation mark, all that good stuff. They learned from the best. So okay, you know how this type of series works. They have a point, they have to talk about it, and obviously it's titled in a pretty provocative manner, and Arcitys goes along with it. Any CDL people want to tell me what we were in denial of, please do let me know. Indeed, not necessarily too happy with the way the CDL is phrasing this, and I think there is an interesting discussion as to whether the CDL should be making content that kind of, skews content maybe in certain angles and pushes certain narratives, and of course, I mean, having FaZe in the OpTic in the title is always good for search engine optimization and views and all this type of good stuff, but I can see Arcitys' perspective on this kind of being like, okay, where are you really getting this from? We lost our one series to, a great team that they played in the grand finals in Toronto Ultra, and all of a sudden we're in denial, where are you building this narrative out of? Now, supposedly, as Brendan says in reply right here, Jess asked in a couple of separate interviews after your wins on the Friday and the Saturday that, okay, the Search and Destroy wasn't looking so good at the major. I think they only won one Search and Destroy at the major, did Atlanta FaZe, and okay, saying that, okay, we know what we're going to fix it for the grand finals on Sunday. Then they, clearly didn't necessarily fix that, and therefore, apparently, they're now in denial. But at the end of the day, maybe Toronto just played incredibly well and prepared for their Search and Destroy, but, you can also look at their Express and say, maybe they just thought they were going to be able to fix it with no issues, and then they still get absolutely bodied in Search and Destroy. But sometimes that's how it goes for these teams, right? Your Search and Destroy is so good as FaZe's was in Stage 1, then they improve their control and hardpoint pretty drastically. I think they were 12-2 in hardpoints this stage, something crazy in control as well, where they were 7-2 or something along those lines, and their Search and Destroy falls off pretty drastically as well. So maybe it's not so much of being in denial that their Search and Destroy is bad. I'm sure these guys realize that their Search and Destroy wasn't great this stage. Simp talked about it in a video a couple of days ago as well, saying, look, we know our Search and Destroy was terrible. It's not going to be the case going forwards. We're going to fix that up, and then we'll get back to those Stage 1 levels and try and maintain our respawn performance as well, because their caliber in respawns was also very impressive throughout Stage 2, but they couldn't quite get over the lines in the Search, and I think it was, their fall down in control, actually, in the grand finals against Toronto that really came back to bite them in the end. So this is the kind of stuff, right? They beat Dallas Empire. I'm pretty sure they beat Dallas Empire here in all 3 respawns, which is, they lost the Search and Destroy, and they probably came out thinking, okay, right, we're not going to lose all these searches in the entire tournament, and we still got past Dallas Empire 3-1, that's pretty impressive, and maybe that's kind of the narrative the CDL are going down those lines of, and I thought this is crazy as well that Round 11 Stats points out just a couple of days ago. So as you can see, FaZe 12-2 in terms of their hardpoint. In control, they're 7-2 as I just mentioned, but in Search and Destroy, they are nowhere to be seen, and that is because they are way down here at 4-7. The worst team in the stage in Search and Destroy was Atlanta FaZe, so maybe that's kind of what the CDL are getting at right here. I mean, their win percentage goes down so drastically from Stage 1, right? Minus 55% win percentage between Stage 1 and Stage 2. Worst Search and Destroy team in the league, technically, was Atlanta FaZe, which is, pretty incredible to think about after their Stage 1 performance. And Ultra moves up to the best Search and Destroy team in the league. Of course, they played 10 because they went to a lot of Game 5s, and also they had that best of 9 grand finals, which also, adds, pads the stats, I suppose, in terms of the number of maps you're playing. But yeah, intrigued to hear your perspective in the comment section below. Should the CDL be going down this route? Every so often we talk about the CDL and the kind of stuff they're doing, like the comms videos, and that the teams aren't necessarily too happy with. Obviously, from my perspective, I don't really think this is too much of a big deal, and obviously it's worked out pretty effectively, because not only is Arcitys talking about it on the timeline and bringing some traction to the video, but I'm also talking about it in a video as well. So the CDL seem to have nailed this in all fronts, but you could well argue that they should be more impartial on some of these issues. Let's talk about some player cards then to finish off the video. We'll also talk about power rankings as well in just a minute or so's time here. But as Lion Man says, Seattle Surge, they came top 8 at the previous major. We looked at their Stage 3 Group B earlier today, which is pretty damn disgusting. But as you can see, I'll put these on the big screen for you guys, as I did not do yesterday. Seattle Surge, Octane actually had a great stage by, the standard he's been performing at so far has been, honestly, like most assault rifles in the game right now, they're not putting up crazy numbers. It's really those kind of SMG players that have been leading the line for most of the team. So seeing Octane put up especially a 1.2 in Search, because typically Search and Destroy has been Octane's weaker game mode out of the 3. So seeing him put up good numbers in that is pretty impressive. Gunless had a massive stage as well. It's great to see him getting back to form. Same with Prestinni. He had a really monster performance, to be honest, and Loony kind of just did his job on this team when Gunless and Prestinni were taking over when they did. Also, we'll look at the Royal Ravens as well, who had, statistically a pretty stuffed stage. I think Porlex, especially in the Search and Destroy, had some crazy stats. You can see first blood, kills per round. Porlex was dominant, but still they can't get over the line in key series, it does seem, for the Royal Ravens at the present time. Just wanted to run through the power rankings very quickly before we finish the video right here. So 11 of us over at Breaking Point got together and basically listed our power rankings, and then averaged it all out, and here we go. So FaZe still number 1. I think very close. You could maybe argue that Ultra is number 1, but I just think that FaZe, okay, they won the first major, they came second at the second major. If both of these teams matched matched up again like later today or something like that, I'd probably say FaZe are going to win that series like 60% of the time or something. So I think FaZe number 1 for now still makes sense. Ultra all the way up at number 2 though. I think this is fair play given them the incredible bracket run that they made at the Stage 2 major. Down in 3 is the Dallas Empire. I think this does make sense. I mean, you could even consider putting Rokkr at 3rd, I think, but Dallas Empire just about got past them in the series they played at the major, and also Dallas have come 2nd at this first major and 3rd at the second major, so I think this is probably just about fair. Minnesota Rokkr in 4th. They've clearly improved pretty drastically with this Standy change. Then you've got OpTic Chicago in 5th, which I think is just about fair enough. I mean, it's well, surprising to see them this low, to be honest, but you know, maybe they'll get up there over time, and Rokkr did beat them in the major in a pretty incredible fashion, so you probably have to tip it to Rokkr at the present time. Then Sublime is down in 6th. I mean, they kind of moved down the power rankings from stage 1, but at the end of the day, they went 0 in 6 in terms of map count at the major, which wasn't pretty at all. Then Los Angeles Thieves would have been way lower than this if they finished their, well, major, just like they finished the stage, but they seem to have been improving pretty quickly indeed. So here they sit in 7th right now. Seattle Surge in 8th, which I think is pretty much fair enough. So on our power rankings right now, these are going to be the 8 teams that make it to the World Championship this year, and Florida Mutineers just about in 9th, LAG in 10th, you know, Ravens in 11th, and Paris in 12th. I'm not 100% sure I agree with the ranking all the way here at the bottom, but I think it's a fair call that these 4 teams right now seem to be the 4 most likely teams to not make it to the World Championship. But well, things may drastically change throughout the rest of the season. But I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube because I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.